The Galactic Council chamber hung in the darkness of space like a jewel, massive and ancient. For 12,000 years, 47 different species had gathered here to discuss the fate of the galaxy. Well, 46 species came regularly. The 47th had never bothered to show up. Ambassador Helen Morris sat in her small office attached to the main chamber, staring at the thinnest file in the entire council database. The humans. She had been assigned to monitor them 3 years ago, and it was the most boring job in galactic politics. Helen belonged to the Velthari species, insect-like beings with compound eyes and delicate antennae. Right now, those antennae drooped with frustration as she read the same useless information for the 100th time. Earth had been discovered 200 years ago. The Council had sent a diplomatic mission. The humans had been polite, even friendly. They learned the galactic languages quickly, set up basic communication systems, and thanked the Council for welcoming them to the larger universe. Then came the invitations. Join the Council. Attend the trade summits. Participate in cultural exchanges. Share technology and knowledge. Every single time, the humans sent the same response: "Thank you for the invitation. We respectfully decline at this time." 200 years of the same answer. Helen's assistant, a younger Velthari named Crix, entered the office carrying data tablets. "Still reading about the humans?" he asked, his mandibles clicking in amusement. "Someone has to," Helen replied. "Why?" "They don't do anything. One planet, a few space stations, some basic ships. They trade with their neighbors, pay their fees, and stay home. They're primitives." Helen wanted to argue, but she couldn't. Every scan of Earth's system showed the same thing: one inhabited world, some orbital traffic, nothing special. The humans had functional technology but nothing impressive. They weren't a threat. They weren't important. They were just there. "At least your job is easy," Crix said. "Better than dealing with the Krell mess." Helen's antennae twitched at the mention of the Krell Dominion. Now that was a real problem. The Krell were a militaristic empire that had spent 10 years swallowing smaller species and expanding aggressively. They ignored Council laws, violated treaties, and now their war fleets were moving toward Council territory. "There's an emergency session in an hour," Helen said. "Every species is being invited to discuss the Krell threat." "Even the humans?" "Protocol requires it. But they won't come. They never do." Helen's communication device beeped. A message from the Council Secretary appeared on her screen. She opened it expecting another boring agenda update. Her antennae shot straight up in shock. "What's wrong?" Crix asked. "The humans," Helen whispered. "They responded to the invitation." "Let me guess. We respectfully decline." "No." Helen turned her screen toward him. "They said yes. They said they're coming." For the first time in 200 years, Earth was sending someone to the Galactic Council. An hour later, the Council chamber buzzed with conversation. 46 species had sent their representatives. Everyone was talking about the Krell situation. 3 more worlds had been invaded. Civilian casualties were mounting. Something had to be done. But underneath the serious discussion, another conversation rippled through the chamber. The humans were coming. After 2 centuries of silence, Earth had finally decided to participate. "They probably got lost," Ambassador Thomas from the Theron species joked. His crystalline body reflected the chamber lights as he spoke. "Do they even know how to navigate properly?" "Maybe they finally realized they need the Council's protection," added Councillor Drake, a reptilian being who secretly sympathized with the Krell. "Primitives always come crawling eventually." Helen said nothing. She watched the entrance portal, her curiosity overwhelming her skepticism. Why now? Why, after 200 years of refusing every invitation, had the humans chosen this moment to attend? The portal shimmered with light. A woman stepped through. The chamber fell silent. Most species had forgotten what humans looked like. This one was average height, slim build, with brown hair pulled back from her face. She wore a simple dark suit with a small silver pin on the collar. No weapons. No fancy decorations. Nothing to indicate she was anyone important. She looked completely ordinary. "Ambassador Rebecca Cole of Earth," Helen announced, reading from her display. "Welcome to the Galactic Council. We're pleased you could finally join us." The human woman nodded politely. "Thank you, Ambassador Morris." Several council members whispered to each other. The human had used Helen's name perfectly, had pronounced the difficult Velthari sounds without any mistakes. Someone had done their homework. "Please, take a seat," Councillor Thomas said, pointing to a simple chair near the back of the chamber. The council had prepared it that morning, equipped with a basic translation device. We've set up everything you'll need. Rebecca glanced at the chair and smiled slightly. That's very thoughtful. She sat down quietly, folded her hands in her lap, and said nothing more. The council returned to business. The Krell situation dominated every conversation. Reports came in constantly. More attacks. More occupied worlds. More council ships destroyed trying to defend the borders. We need military action, Councillor Thomas declared. The Theron hegemony offers our fleet. 200 warships. This is the largest military force ever assembled by the council. The chamber filled with impressed murmurs. 200 warships was an enormous commitment. We should try economic sanctions first, Helen argued. War should be our last option. Sanctions? Drake laughed, his scales rippling. The Krell have ignored sanctions for 10 years. They're about to invade the outer colonies. We need action, not paperwork. The argument continued for 2 hours. Species debated, formed alliances, and proposed different strategies. Through all of it, Rebecca Cole sat in the back row, watching, listening, never speaking. Finally, Councillor Thomas called for a vote on military deployment. Before we vote, a calm voice interrupted, "May I say something?" Every eye in the chamber turned to the back. Rebecca had stood up. "The human wants to speak." Drake's voice dripped with mockery. "What could Earth possibly add to this discussion?" "A perspective," Rebecca said simply. "If you'll allow it." Councillor Thomas's crystalline form flickered with curiosity. "Very well. Earth may speak." Rebecca walked to the center of the chamber. She carried no notes, no electronic devices. She just stood in the light and began to talk. The Krell Dominion currently has 340 capital ships and 823 support vessels. They occupy 12 worlds. Their main fleet is in the Tyros sector. Secondary forces are positioned along your border near the outer colonies. They are planning to attack 3 targets simultaneously: the mining colony on Alios 4, the trade station at Sanctum, and the farming world called Verdant. Complete silence filled the chamber. Helen's mind went blank with shock. How did the human know this? The Council's best intelligence networks didn't have this level of detail. How do you know these things? Helen finally asked. Rebecca met her eyes calmly. We've been monitoring the situation. Monitoring from where? Councillor Thomas's voice was sharp now, no longer amused. Your system is nowhere near Krell space. Our own spies barely have this information. We have our methods, Rebecca said. Drake rose from his seat, his scales flushed with anger. This is ridiculous. The humans barely have space travel. They couldn't possibly. Your flagship, Councillor Drake, had a power problem 17 hours ago, Rebecca interrupted. The port engine. It's been fixed, but your backup systems are still running checks. You should verify that before you fly home. Drake's scales went pale. You've been spying on council members? Thomas demanded. We've been watching, Rebecca corrected quietly. There's a difference. Helen's world tilted. Everything she thought she knew about humanity was wrong. They weren't primitive. They weren't isolated. They had technology advanced enough to spy on the entire galaxy without anyone noticing. Why? Helen asked. Why watch us for 200 years and never tell us? Because we weren't ready yet, Rebecca answered. And you didn't need us. Until now. She turned to face the entire council. The Krell problem needs to be solved. Councillor Thomas, your offer of 200 ships is generous. But it won't be enough. The Krell will match your force, and you'll have a war lasting decades with millions dead. What do you suggest? Thomas asked coldly. Let us handle it. The chamber exploded with laughter. Even Helen, who was starting to suspect the humans were more capable than anyone believed, found the suggestion absurd. One species against an empire? Rebecca waited patiently for the laughter to stop. It took a full minute. You? Drake gasped between laughs. One species? One planet? No military? You'll handle the Krell Dominion? Yes. With what army? Thomas demanded. Rebecca's expression never changed. The one we've been building for 200 years. The laughter died instantly. This is insane, Drake said. The council must. The council should give us the coordinates for the Krell home system, Rebecca interrupted calmly. And a list of occupied worlds. We'll handle the rest. This is a waste of time, Thomas declared. I call for an immediate vote on the hegemony deployment. We're not asking permission, Rebecca said quietly. Her words cut through the chamber like a blade. We're being polite. We wanted you to know what's about to happen. Professional courtesy. Helen stared at the human woman. There was no arrogance in her voice, no false bravado. She spoke with the calm certainty of someone stating a simple fact. Is Earth declaring war? Helen asked carefully. No, Rebecca said. We're ending one. She nodded politely to the council. Thank you for your time. We'll contact you soon. Then she turned and walked out. The council chamber dissolved into shouting and chaos. But Helen just sat there, staring at the door where the human had disappeared, wondering what Earth had been doing for 200 years while the galaxy wasn't watching. Rebecca's ship departed the council station within minutes. The sleek vessel moved with impossible grace, vanishing into faster-than-light travel before anyone could follow. Helen watched it disappear, her compound eyes tracking the fading energy signature. Should we stop her? Crix asked nervously. With what? Helen replied. We don't even know what we just witnessed. The council chamber remained in chaos for hours after Rebecca left. Species argued, accusations flew, and conspiracy theories multiplied. The Theron hegemony demanded answers. The Krell sympathizers claimed it was all lies. Smaller species worried that Earth might be a new threat. Helen ignored the politics. She filed an emergency request with the council leadership. Within 3 hours, she had her answer. Permission granted, the message read. Ambassador Morris may travel to observe the Krell border. Report all findings immediately. Crix helped her pack monitoring equipment into her personal ship. You really think the humans will do something? I think they know something we don't, Helen said. And I intend to find out what. Her ship launched 12 hours after Rebecca's departure. Helen programmed coordinates for a system on the edge of Krell space, a border region where council sensors monitored enemy fleet movements. If humanity was planning something, she would see it from there. The journey took 3 days. Helen spent the time reviewing every scrap of information about Earth. Trading records showed humans purchased raw materials but sold nothing advanced. Scan data showed one inhabited planet. Communication intercepts revealed normal civilian chatter. Everything pointed to a simple, unremarkable species. Yet Rebecca had possessed intelligence that rivaled the Council's best spy networks. She had detected a malfunction on Drake's ship that even his own crew hadn't noticed yet. And she had spoken with absolute confidence about military capabilities. Helen's ship dropped out of FTL travel at the border system. She immediately deployed her sensor arrays, positioning them to watch both Council space and Krell territory. Then she waited. The first day passed quietly. Krell patrol ships moved along their usual routes. Council observers maintained their positions. Nothing unusual. The second day brought news from the Council. The hegemony had deployed their promised 200 warships. The massive fleet was gathering at a staging point, preparing for potential conflict. It was the largest military force assembled in living memory. The third day started like the others. Helen monitored communications, tracked ship movements, and drank too much stimulant tea. Then, at exactly 1400 hours station time, her sensors screamed. Helen's antennae shot upright. She stared at her displays in disbelief. Ships. Hundreds of them. But they weren't where she was looking. They weren't coming from Earth's direction at all. The vessels were appearing behind her position, between Council space and the Krell border. Massive gravitational distortions rippled across her sensors as ship after ship materialized from nowhere. Not from one direction. From everywhere. They simply appeared, like someone had flipped a switch and made them visible. Perfect formation. Perfect spacing. All at once. Helen's instruments struggled to count them. Her computer kept revising the number upward. 200 ships. 400. 600. 800. 1,000. 1,000 warships, each one twice the size of the largest Krell battleship. They dwarfed anything the Council had ever built. The energy signatures coming from them overloaded her sensors. Helen switched to visual observation. Through her view screen, she saw them with her own eyes. Sleek hulls of dark metal, gleaming in the light of distant stars. No visible weapons, but the ships radiated power like small suns. They hung in space, utterly silent, utterly still. A communication channel opened on all frequencies. Rebecca's voice filled the void. Krell Dominion, this is Ambassador Rebecca Cole representing Earth. You currently occupy 12 worlds that do not belong to you. You have killed thousands of innocent beings. This ends now. Helen's breathing stopped. She watched as a Krell patrol fleet detected the human ships. 3 Krell vessels altered course, moving to investigate. You will withdraw from all occupied systems immediately, Rebecca's voice continued, calm and professional. You will cease all military operations against Council species. You have 6 hours to comply. The Krell patrol ships opened a communication channel. Helen intercepted it. The Krell commander's voice was filled with mockery. Unknown vessels, you have entered Krell space without authorization. Identify yourselves or be destroyed. We have identified ourselves, Rebecca replied. 6 hours, Commander. Use them wisely. You dare threaten the Krell Dominion? Our empire has conquered a dozen species. Our fleets have crushed every enemy. You will. The transmission cut off. Not because the Krell stopped talking. Because Rebecca closed the channel. Helen watched the Krell patrol ships. They hesitated, clearly receiving new orders from their command. Then all 3 vessels turned and accelerated back toward Krell space at maximum speed. They were running. Helen's communicator exploded with incoming signals. Every council observer in the region was trying to contact her. Every species wanted to know what was happening. She ignored them all. Her eyes were fixed on the human fleet. 1,000 warships, hanging silently in space, waiting. Helen pulled up long-range sensors focused on Krell space. Deep in their territory, enemy fleets were moving. The Dominion was responding to the threat. Ships were being recalled from occupation duty. Military stations were going to full alert. And in the Krell home system, Helen's sensors detected something massive powering up. The Krell primary fleet. 340 capital ships, the largest concentration of military power in known space. They were coming. Helen opened a communication channel to the human fleet. She didn't expect an answer, but she had to try. Ambassador Cole, this is Helen Morris of the Velthari. I'm observing from the border. Please respond. Silence for 10 seconds. Then Rebecca's voice came through, calm as ever. Hello, Ambassador Morris. We were wondering when you'd arrive. You knew I was coming? We've been tracking your ship since you left Council space. Nice sensor array, by the way. Very thorough. Helen's mandibles clicked in frustration. The Krell primary fleet is mobilizing. 340 capital ships. They're coming for you. We know. You can't possibly. Ambassador Morris, Rebecca interrupted gently, you should move your ship back another 50,000 kilometers. Things are about to get interesting. What are you planning? We're going to give them a chance, Rebecca said. 6 hours to withdraw peacefully. If they choose violence instead, we'll show them why that's a mistake. You're outnumbered, Helen said desperately. Even with 1,000 ships. We're not outnumbered, Ambassador. We're exactly where we need to be, with exactly what we need. Trust me. The channel closed. Helen sat frozen in her command chair. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to get as far from this confrontation as possible. But she couldn't look away. Her sensors tracked the approaching Krell fleet. They would arrive in 5 hours and 40 minutes. The human ships didn't move. They simply waited. Helen remained at her observation post, every sensor focused on the human fleet and the approaching Krell armada. She had sent 3 reports to the Council already. Each one had been met with disbelief, panic, and demands for more information she didn't have. The human ships hadn't moved. They hung in perfect formation, silent as ghosts. No communications. No power fluctuations. No indication of what they planned to do when the Krell arrived. Helen tried scanning them again. Her instruments returned impossible readings. Energy signatures that shouldn't exist. Hull materials that absorbed sensor waves. Propulsion systems that operated on principles she couldn't identify. Who are you? She whispered to herself, staring at the fleet. 4 hours into the countdown, the Krell sent another transmission. Not to the humans. To the entire galaxy. Emperor Thax, ruler of the Krell Dominion, appeared on every public channel. He was massive, even for a Krell. Dark scales covered his body. 3 rows of razor teeth filled his mouth. His eyes glowed red with fury. Unknown species calling themselves human, he growled. You have made a grave mistake. The Krell Dominion does not negotiate with primitives. We do not accept ultimatums from weaklings. You have 1 hour to retreat, or we will destroy every single one of your ships and then visit your homeworld to teach you the price of arrogance. The transmission ended. Helen waited for the human response. Nothing came. The fleet remained silent. The council exploded with activity. Helen's communicator buzzed constantly with incoming messages. Counselor Thomas demanded she retreat immediately. Drake claimed the humans were bluffing and would flee. Smaller species begged for someone to stop the coming battle. Helen muted them all. 3 hours passed. The Krell fleet continued its approach. Helen's long-range sensors showed them clearly now. 340 capital ships, each one bristling with weapons. 800 support vessels surrounded them. Troop carriers, supply ships, mobile repair stations. This wasn't just a battle fleet. This was an invasion force. Behind them, deeper in Krell space, more ships were mobilizing. Thax was committing everything to this fight. 2 hours remaining. Helen detected movement among the human ships. Not all of them, just a few dozen at the front of the formation. They were adjusting positions, spreading slightly wider. The Krell sent probes ahead. Small automated vessels designed to scan enemy capabilities. Helen watched them approach the human fleet. The probes stopped working. Not destroyed. Just stopped. Their signals vanished, their systems went dark, and they drifted uselessly in space. The Krell fleet didn't slow down. 1 hour left. Helen could see both forces on her viewscreen now. The Krell armada was enormous, a wall of metal and weapons. The human fleet looked tiny by comparison, despite having 1,000 ships. But there was something about the way the human vessels waited. Patient. Calm. Like they had done this before. Helen's communicator chimed with a priority signal. She answered without checking the source. Ambassador Morris. It was Rebecca's voice. You're still here. Where else would I be? Most observers would have run by now. I need to see this, Helen said. I need to understand. Silence for a moment. Then Rebecca spoke again, her voice softer. Ambassador, what you're about to witness will change everything. After today, the galaxy will never look at Earth the same way. Are you sure you want that knowledge? Helen's antennae trembled. Yes. Very well. Keep recording. The council will need proof. Proof of what? That we gave them every chance to choose peace. The channel closed. 30 minutes. The Krell fleet began final approach maneuvers. Weapons powered up across all 340 capital ships. Targeting systems locked onto human vessels. Helen held her breath. 15 minutes. The Krell fleet commander sent one final transmission to the humans. Last chance, primitives. Retreat or die. No response from Earth. 10 minutes. The Krell reached attack range. Helen's sensors detected energy spikes across their fleet. They were preparing to fire. 5 minutes. Helen's hands trembled on her controls. She wanted to look away but couldn't. 2 minutes. The Krell fleet formed into attack formation. Weapons charged to full power. 1 minute. Helen whispered a prayer to deities she didn't believe in. Then Emperor Thax's voice thundered across all channels. All ships. Fire. The Krell armada unleashed hell. Thousands of missiles launched simultaneously. Energy beams cut through space. Plasma torpedoes streaked toward the human fleet. The combined firepower could have destroyed a planet. Helen watched it all hurtle toward the 1,000 human ships. And then something impossible happened. The missiles simply stopped. Not exploded. Not deflected. They stopped in space as if hitting an invisible wall. Energy beams bent around the human ships, dissipating harmlessly. Plasma torpedoes dissolved into nothing. Every single weapon fired by 340 Krell warships failed to reach its target. The human fleet still hadn't moved. Emperor Thax's roar of fury echoed across every channel. Again. Fire everything. The Krell fleet launched a second volley. Then a third. Then a fourth. Wave after wave of devastating firepower crashed against the human ships. Nothing got through. The human vessels sat in space, untouched, as if the Krell weren't even there. Helen's instruments were screaming. The energy required to block that much firepower shouldn't be possible. The humans were doing something that violated every known law of physics. Forward. Thax commanded. Ram them if you must. Destroy them. The Krell fleet surged forward, capital ships accelerating to ramming speed. The human ships moved for the first time. They didn't retreat. They didn't scatter. Each ship shifted position by exactly 300 meters. Perfectly synchronized. Perfectly timed. The Krell fleet rushed through empty space where the humans had been, their momentum carrying them forward in chaos. And then the humans fired back. Helen's sensors went white with energy discharge. Not from all 1,000 ships. Just 20 of them. 20 ships fired a single volley. 150 Krell capital ships went dark. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Just dark. Every weapon system failed. Every engine shut down. Life support continued working, but everything else was dead in space. 150 warships disabled in 12 seconds. Helen couldn't breathe. Her mind couldn't process what she was seeing. Rebecca's voice filled every communication channel in the sector. Calm. Professional. Final. Emperor Thax. We did not want this. We gave you 6 hours to choose peace. You chose violence. So we have shown you a fraction of what Earth is capable of. Your fleet is disabled, not destroyed. Your people are alive, not dead. We are not your enemy unless you make us one. Silence on the Krell channels. Helen could imagine Thax staring at his screens in disbelief. This is 20% of our defensive fleet, Rebecca continued. We have 5 more positioned throughout the galaxy. We have watched you for decades, Thax. We know every ship, every station, every military installation in your empire. We can end this war in an hour. Or you can end it now by withdrawing from occupied worlds and agreeing to council arbitration. More silence. You have 1 hour to decide, Rebecca said. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Helen stared at her screens. Helen watched her sensors obsessively, tracking every movement in the Krell fleet. The disabled ships drifted helplessly in space, their crews alive but powerless. The remaining Krell vessels held position, clearly receiving desperate communications from their emperor. Across the galaxy, chaos erupted. Helen's message queue overflowed with thousands of incoming signals. Every species, every government, every military leader demanded answers. How had the humans done this? Where had the technology come from? What did Earth want? Helen had no answers. She was as shocked as everyone else. 30 minutes into the countdown, movement registered on her sensors. Not from the Krell. From deeper in Council space. The Theron Hegemony's fleet of 200 warships had arrived at the edge of the battle zone. Councillor Thomas himself commanded the flagship. Ambassador Morris, his crystalline voice chimed over a secure channel. What is the situation? The humans disabled 150 Krell ships in 12 seconds, Helen reported, her voice flat with disbelief. No casualties. Surgical precision. Technology we've never seen before. Impossible. I have recordings. I'll transmit them now. She sent the data. Silence followed as Thomas reviewed the footage. By the light of the core, he whispered finally. This changes everything. What are your orders? Helen asked. Hold position. Observe only. Do not engage either force under any circumstances. The channel closed. 45 minutes passed. Helen detected activity on Krell communication channels. Encrypted signals bounced between the disabled fleet, the active ships, and the Krell homeworld. The Emperor was making a decision. Then, at exactly 58 minutes, a new transmission broadcast on all frequencies. Emperor Thax appeared on screen. His scales had lost their vibrant color. His eyes no longer blazed with fury. He looked old. Humans of Earth, he began, his voice heavy with defeat. The Krell Dominion accepts your terms. We will withdraw from all occupied worlds immediately. We will submit to council arbitration. We request only that you return our disabled vessels and allow our people to return home safely. Helen's antennae shot upright. The Krell Empire had just surrendered. Without conditions. Without negotiation. Rebecca's response came seconds later. Emperor Thax, your request is granted. All disabled vessels will have their systems restored remotely in 1 hour. You may recover them safely. Withdraw your forces from occupied worlds within 72 hours. Any delay will be considered a violation of this agreement. Understood, Thax replied quietly. Then he added, almost as an afterthought, may I ask, what species are you really? How long have you been this powerful? Rebecca's answer was simple. Long enough to know that power without restraint leads to destruction. We hope you'll remember that, Emperor. The transmission ended. Helen watched in amazement as the Krell fleet began an orderly withdrawal. The active ships formed a protective formation around the disabled vessels. They moved slowly, carefully, like a defeated army limping home. The human fleet remained in position, watching them go. An hour later, exactly as promised, the disabled Krell ships suddenly came back to life. Lights flickered on. Engines hummed to power. Systems rebooted smoothly. The Krell crews must have been terrified, Helen thought. Their ships had been shut down by an invisible force, and now they were restored just as mysteriously. The humans had demonstrated complete control over Krell technology without even touching it. Ambassador Morris. Rebecca's voice appeared on Helen's communicator. The Council has requested an emergency session. Will you escort us back to the station? Of course, Helen replied. Ambassador Cole, what you just did was necessary, Rebecca interrupted gently. Nothing more, nothing less. We'll explain everything to the Council. They deserve the truth. The entire galaxy is demanding answers. I know. That's why we're returning to the station. This was never about showing off our strength, Ambassador. It was about proving we could solve problems peacefully if given the chance. You call disabling 150 warships peaceful. We could have destroyed them, Rebecca said quietly. We didn't. Every Krell crew member will go home to their families tonight. That's peace, even if it doesn't look pretty. Helen had no response to that. The human fleet began moving. Not all 1,000 ships. Just one. A single vessel detached from the formation and approached Helen's position. The rest of the fleet simply vanished. Helen's sensors registered massive energy spikes, and then 999 warships disappeared as completely as they had appeared. No trace. No trail. Just gone. Where did they go? Helen asked in shock. Back to their positions, Rebecca answered. We have a galaxy to protect. This was just one problem solved. Rebecca's ship pulled alongside Helen's vessel. It was sleek and beautiful, with lines that suggested speed and power in equal measure. Ready when you are, Ambassador, Rebecca said. Helen set course for the Council station, her mind spinning. The journey would take 3 days. 3 days to process what had just happened. 3 days before the galaxy would hear Earth's explanation. Behind them, the Krell fleet limped home in defeat. Ahead, the Council prepared for answers. And somewhere out there, 5,000 more human warships waited in positions Helen couldn't detect, protecting a galaxy that didn't even know they existed. The journey back was quiet. Rebecca's ship followed Helen's at a respectful distance. They didn't communicate much. Helen spent the time reviewing her recordings, analyzing the battle data, trying to understand the technology she had witnessed. It was impossible. The energy requirements alone defied physics. The precision targeting, the ability to disable but not destroy, the invisible barriers that stopped Krell weapons, none of it should work. Yet it did. On the second day of travel, Helen couldn't contain her curiosity any longer. She opened a channel to Rebecca's ship. Ambassador Cole, may I ask a question? Of course. How long have you really had this capability? And why hide it? Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. We achieved practical fusion power 180 years ago. We cracked gravitational manipulation 140 years ago. We solved faster-than-light communication 100 years ago. Each breakthrough led to others. We didn't hide our progress maliciously, Ambassador. We just chose to develop without interference. But why? The Council would have helped you. Shared technology. Protected you during development. Would you? Rebecca asked gently. Or would you have insisted we follow established paths? Use approved technologies? Integrate with existing systems? We studied Council history, Ambassador Morris. Species that join young stay dependent. They adopt other solutions instead of creating their own. We wanted to be strong before we joined. Strong enough that would never need protection. Helen considered this. It made terrible sense. The Council did tend to absorb new species, guide them, shape them. The Council chamber was packed beyond capacity. All 47 species had sent representatives, many accompanied by military advisors and intelligence officers. The normal seating arrangement had been abandoned. Instead, species clustered together in groups, whispering nervously. Helen led Rebecca to the center of the chamber. Every eye followed the human woman as she walked calmly to the speaker's position. She carried nothing. No notes, no display devices, no weapons. Just herself. Counselor Thomas's crystalline form flickered with agitation. Ambassador Cole. The entire galaxy demands an explanation. You claim Earth possesses 6,000 warships. You defeated the Krell Empire in minutes. You've hidden this capability for 2 centuries. What is Earth's intention? Rebecca looked around the chamber slowly, meeting the eyes of as many representatives as possible. When she spoke, her voice was clear and steady. 293 years ago, humanity discovered faster-than-light travel. It was a breakthrough moment for our species. We immediately began exploring nearby space, eager to meet our galactic neighbors. She paused. And we found you. All of you. Your transmissions, your trade routes, your conflicts. We listened and learned. For 10 years, we studied galactic civilization before revealing ourselves. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several species shifted uncomfortably. What we discovered troubled us, Rebecca continued. The Galactic Council had existed for 12,000 years. In that time, you had achieved remarkable things. Peace among dozens of species. Shared technology. Cultural exchange. These are genuine accomplishments. But... Drake hissed from his seat. But we also noticed patterns, Rebecca said. New species that joined the Council young remained dependent. They adopted existing technologies instead of developing their own. They relied on Council protection instead of building their own defenses. They became part of a system that kept them safe but limited. That's absurd, Thomas chimed. The Council helps young species develop. We share knowledge freely. You share your knowledge, Rebecca corrected gently. Your solutions. Your approaches. Which means new species never learn to solve problems themselves. They learn to follow established paths. Helen watched the chamber. Many representatives looked offended. But others, particularly from younger species, nodded slowly. We made a choice, Rebecca said. We would not join the Council until we were strong enough to stand as equals. Not subjects. Not students. Equals. So you built an army, Drake accused. 6,000 warships. That's not equality. That's domination. No, Rebecca replied firmly. That's insurance. We watched the Krell grow aggressive for decades. We saw them ignore sanctions, violate treaties, absorb weaker species. We knew eventually they would threaten Council space. We prepared to help when that day came. Help? Thomas's voice dripped with skepticism. You could have warned us years ago. Instead you watched and waited. Would you have listened? Rebecca asked. If we had contacted you 5 years ago and said the Krell were dangerous, would the Council have acted? Or would you have held more meetings, passed more sanctions, and hoped diplomacy would work? Silence answered her. We're not criticizing you, Rebecca continued. The Council has maintained peace for thousands of years through careful diplomacy. That's admirable. But some threats can't be negotiated with. Some situations require strength, not words. We made ourselves strong so that when those moments came, the galaxy would have an option besides surrender or devastating war. You still haven't explained the 6,000 warships, a small voice spoke up. It was Ambassador Kryn from the Peleos species, one of the youngest members. That's more military power than the entire Council combined. What do you need that much force for? Rebecca smiled slightly. We don't need it. That's the point. The Krell surrendered after seeing only 20 ships fire. Emperor Thax understood immediately that continuing the fight was suicide. We never wanted to use our full strength. We wanted to be so overwhelmingly powerful that no one would dare test us. Deterrence, Helen said suddenly, understanding flooding through her. Exactly, Rebecca confirmed. We built a military so powerful that it would prevent wars, not fight them. Today proved it works. The Krell surrendered without a single death. 12 occupied worlds will be freed. Thousands of lives will be saved. All because we were prepared. But who gave you the right? Drake demanded, rising from his seat. The right to make these decisions? To build this military? To enforce your will on sovereign empires? Rebecca's expression hardened slightly. The same right the Krell claimed when they invaded those 12 worlds. The same right every species claims when they protect their interests. We're not enforcing our will, Counselor Drake. We're protecting innocence from predators. And who protects us from you? Drake shot back. The chamber fell silent. It was the question everyone was thinking. Rebecca looked directly at Drake. Your own judgment. We've had this capability for over a century. In that time, we've never attacked anyone. Never threatened anyone. Never demanded anything from anyone. We trade fairly, pay our fees, and respect sovereignty. Today was the first time we've used military force, and only after the Krell refused peaceful withdrawal. She turned to address the full council. We're not your overlords. We're not your saviors. We're not seeking to control the galaxy. We simply want to exist as a free, independent species while ensuring that aggressive empires can't destroy what you've all built here. Then what do you want? Thomas asked, his voice calmer now. You've revealed your strength. You've demonstrated your capability. What comes next? Rebecca was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. We want to join the council. As full members. As equals. We'll attend sessions when important decisions need to be made. We'll contribute to discussions. We'll help protect council space from external threats. But we won't be absorbed into your systems. We'll maintain our independence, our own technology, our own way of doing things. And your military? Kryn asked nervously. We'll remain ready, Rebecca said. Positioned throughout the galaxy to respond to threats. But only used when absolutely necessary, and only after peaceful options are exhausted. What happened with the Krell will not become routine. We prefer peace. We'll always prefer peace. Helen found herself speaking before she realized it. The council needs time to discuss this. To understand what you're proposing. Of course, Rebecca agreed. We're not demanding an immediate answer. Take whatever time you need. Debate, discuss, argue. We'll wait. We've gotten good at waiting. But know this, she added, her voice taking on a serious tone. Whether you accept our membership or not, we'll continue protecting this region of space. The Krell situation proved that the galaxy needs someone willing to act when diplomacy fails. We'll be that someone. With or without council approval. That sounds like a threat, Drake hissed. It's a promise, Rebecca corrected. The galaxy is dangerous. It always has been. For 12,000 years, you've managed that danger through careful diplomacy and mutual defense. We're offering another tool. Overwhelming force used sparingly and precisely. The choice of whether to accept that tool is yours. She looked around the chamber one final time. We're not your enemies. We're not your competition. We're simply another species trying to survive and thrive in a difficult universe. The difference is we chose to become strong before joining you, instead of becoming strong through you. Councillor Thomas's form flickered rapidly, a sign of deep thought among his species. The council will need to vote on this. It may take time. We understand, Rebecca said. Ambassador Morris has our contact information. Reach out when you're ready to talk. She turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. The Krell have 72 hours to withdraw from occupied worlds. If they don't, we'll help them. I wanted the council to know that before it happens. And if the council orders you not to interfere? Drake challenged. Rebecca met his eyes calmly. Then we'll respectfully decline. Just like we declined your meeting invitations for 200 years. Some decisions we make ourselves. She walked out of the chamber, leaving stunned silence behind. Helen watched her go, then turned to face the council. Every representative stared at her, clearly expecting her to provide answers. What do we do? Kryn asked nervously. Thomas's crystalline form pulsed with light. We debate. We discuss. We try to understand what just happened and what it means for the galaxy. They're too powerful, Drake growled. They're a threat to everyone. Or they're exactly what they claim, Helen heard herself say. A species that prepared for the worst and hopes for the best. You believe them? Thomas asked. Helen thought about the battle she had witnessed. The precision. The restraint. The disabled Krell ships with their crews alive and unharmed. Earth could have destroyed that fleet in seconds. Instead, they had carefully, surgically removed its ability to fight while preserving every life. Yes, Helen said finally. I believe them. They've been watching us for 200 years. If they wanted to conquer the galaxy, they could have done it decades ago. Instead, they waited until we needed help. Or until they were ready, Drake countered. Maybe both things are true, Helen replied. The council dissolved into heated debate. Species argued for hours about Earth's intentions, capabilities, and trustworthiness. Some demanded restrictions. Others suggested alliance. A few called for military action, though that idea died quickly when reminded of what Earth had done to the Krell. Helen slipped out during the arguments. She found Rebecca in the docking bay, preparing to depart. That went well, Helen said dryly. Rebecca smiled. Better than expected, actually. No one tried to arrest me. Give them time. Some are still considering it. Let them try, Rebecca said without arrogance. Just fact. Helen's antennae drooped. What happens now? Now we wait and see what the council decides. In the meantime, we'll continue doing what we've always done. Watching. Protecting. Staying ready. And if the council rejects your membership? Rebecca shrugged. Then we stay independent. Nothing really changes. We'll still help when needed. We'll still protect Council space. We just won't have a vote on trade regulations." Helen laughed despite herself. After everything that had happened, Rebecca still had a sense of humor. "Ambassador Cole? Rebecca, can I ask one more question?" "Of course. The 6,000 warships. Are they really positioned throughout the galaxy?" Rebecca's smile widened. "What do you think, Ambassador? I think you've been honest about everything else. So yes, I believe they're out there." "Good instincts," Rebecca said. She climbed into her ship, then paused at the door. "Ambassador Morris, you're welcome to visit Earth anytime. We have a beautiful home system. Hundreds of colonies, orbital stations, research facilities. You might be surprised by what we've built." "Hundreds of colonies." Helen's antennae shot up. "But our scans show only one inhabited world." Rebecca's expression turned playful. "Maybe you should scan again. With better equipment this time." Her ship sealed and launched, disappearing into FTL travel within seconds. Helen stood in the docking bay, her mind reeling. Hundreds of colonies. An entire civilization that had grown and flourished while the galaxy wasn't watching. She pulled out her personal communicator and composed a message to Earth's diplomatic channel. "Permission to visit your home system? I'd like to see what we missed." The reply came 3 minutes later. "Permission granted. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Morris. Coordinates attached. Fair warning, it's quite different from what your old scans show." Helen uploaded the coordinates and headed to her ship. Behind her, the Council continued arguing about what to do with humanity. But Helen had already made her decision. She would see Earth for herself. She would understand these strange, patient, overwhelmingly powerful beings who had skipped every meeting until the moment they were truly needed. 3 days later, Helen's ship dropped out of FTL travel at the coordinates Rebecca had provided. Her sensors immediately overloaded. The system wasn't empty except for one planet. It was packed with civilization. Orbital stations the size of moons. Shipyards building vessels. Mining operations in the asteroid belt. Colonies on 4 different planets and 6 moons. And ships. Thousands of ships moving through the system on normal business. "By the ancient light," Helen whispered. A communication channel opened. Rebecca's voice greeted her warmly. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. Sorry about the clutter. We've been busy." Helen stared at her screens in wonder. This wasn't a species hiding on one world. This was a thriving interstellar civilization that had simply chosen not to advertise itself. "How did we miss all this?" Helen asked. "You didn't miss it," Rebecca replied. "We just made sure you saw only what we wanted you to see. Stealth technology has its uses. But you're welcome here now. Come down to Earth. Let me show you what we've built." Helen guided her ship toward the blue planet at the system's center. Her world changed forever. The humans hadn't been skipping meetings because they were primitive or afraid. They had been preparing. And now they were ready.